You don't deserve to be at war with your own mind, but here you are trying to survive battles no one else can see. And that's exactly why this moment matters more than you think. Because right now, as you're listening, something inside you is quietly asking for help, for calm, for air. Something inside you is tired of being bullied by thoughts that were never truth, only noise. And today, finally, you're going to learn to deal with those negative thoughts instead of letting them deal with you. Negative thoughts slip in silently, pretending to be facts, pretending to be warnings, pretending they're protecting you. They whisper doubts, they echo old wounds, they replay memories you've tried to outgrow. They tell you you're not enough, not ready, not capable. They exaggerate your mistakes and shrink your achievements. They show up uninvited at 2 a.m., turning your mind into a maze you can't escape. And for too long, you've believed them simply because they spoke the loudest. But loud does not mean true. Loud does not mean wise. Loud does not mean you must obey. You are not powerless against your own thoughts, even when they feel overwhelming. You are not trapped in a loop just because you've been in it for years. Every thought that enters your mind is not a command. Not every thought deserves your belief. Not every thought is a mirror of who you are. Some thoughts are wounds replaying themselves. Some thoughts are fears wearing the mask of logic. Some thoughts are shadows that look bigger only because your light is behind them. And some thoughts, the darkest ones, are simply echoes of pain you never asked for. The first step to dealing with negative thoughts is understanding that they are not you. They happen inside you, but they are not your identity. If I dropped a stone in a river, the ripples would spread across the surface, but the river would still be the river. Your mind is the river. Thoughts are the ripples. They move through you, but they do not define you. You don't fight ripples, you watch them pass. You let them lose power. You let them fade. But negative thoughts don't like fading. They survive because you feed them attention. They feed on fear, on replay, on overthinking. They feed on silence and sometimes even on hope. They feed on the habit of believing every harsh voice inside your head. And the moment you notice you're spiraling, they tighten their grip. They convince you that your feelings are permanent, that your fears are correct, that your worst case scenarios are the only ones possible. But today you're learning something vital. A thought becomes powerful only when you agree with it. You've agreed with your thoughts for so long that the negative ones sound familiar, even comfortable. They sound like the truth simply because you've heard them so often. But the truth is not whatever you've heard the most. The truth is whatever brings clarity instead of confusion, calm instead of chaos. If a thought drains you, hurts you, freezes you, or traps you, understand this. It is not truth. It is a distortion. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, where does this thought come from? Does it come from fear, hurt, memory, misunderstanding? Is someone else's voice? If a thought isn't rooted in reality, it does not deserve your belief. If a thought cannot be proven, it has no right to control you. If a thought only appears when you're tired, stressed, or scared, it is not insight. It is vulnerability speaking. Whenever a negative thought enters your mind, imagine holding it in your hand. Look at it. Don't run from it. Don't panic. Don't let it blend into the background of your mind. Give it shape. Give it form. Ask it, what are you trying to tell me? Why are you here? What do you want me to fear? Why do you sound so familiar? And then ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is it true? Is it true? Is it tragical? Is it fair? Would I speak this way to someone I cared for? If the answer to any of those is no, then the thought has no authority over you. Negative thoughts lose their power when exposed to curiosity instead of fear. They lose power when examined instead of obeyed. They lose power when you stop treating them as commands and start treating them as possibilities, most of which are false. Your mind is powerful, but you are more powerful than the thoughts it produces. The same mind that creates fear also creates courage. The same mind that creates doubt also creates solutions. The same mind that imagines the worst case scenario can learn to imagine the best case one. You are not stuck with the patterns your mind built during survival mode. You can rebuild. You can rewire. Every time you challenge a negative thought, you weaken its roots. Every time you question a fear, you shrink its voice. Every time you replace a harsh inner voice with a kinder one, you teach your mind to treat you with respect. Your negative thoughts want you to believe that change is impossible. But change is happening now simply because you're listening. Healing starts with awareness. Transformation starts with understanding. Strength starts with taking back control of what you accept and what you reject inside your own mind. You deal with negative thoughts not by suppressing them, but by recognizing that their presence does not mean danger. A negative thought is a signal, not a sentence. A warning, not a prophecy. A reflection, not a reality. Sometimes it's your mind asking for rest. Sometimes it's asking for closure. Sometimes it's asking for comfort. Sometimes it's simply stuck on repeat because no one ever taught you how to press stop. You deal with negative thoughts by grounding yourself in the present moment. Feel your breathing, feel your body, feel your surroundings. Negative thoughts live in the past and the future, never the present. The present moment is neutral, safe, real. When you anchor yourself here, the storm inside your mind loses momentum. You deal with negative thoughts by giving your focus to something stronger. Your strengths, your resilience, your growth, your progress, your small victories, your future, your vision, the version of you that survived every bad day you thought you couldn't, the version of you that is listening right now, not giving up, not surrendering. You deal with negative thoughts by creating distance between you and them. Instead of saying, I am a failure, say, hey, I am having a thought that I am a failure. Instead of saying, I won't make it, say, I'm having a thought that I won't make it. That small distance changes everything. Suddenly you are the observer, not the prisoner. The one with perspective, not the one pulled underwater by emotion. And when the thoughts get loud, because they will, some days louder than others, remind yourself, this is temporary. This moment is not your whole story. This feeling is not your identity. This thought is not your fate. You have survived every storm inside your mind so far. Not one of them has defeated you. Not one of them has ended you. You have walked through mental darkness you never told anyone about. And yet here you are, choosing healing again. You are stronger than your thoughts. You always have been. You just forgot. And every time you remember, you take back a piece of yourself. You take back your power. You take back your peace. Keep going. You're learning to deal with what once controlled you. You're reclaiming your mind one thought at a time. And soon, very soon, you will look back and realize that the thoughts that once terrified you now hold no power at all. Because you finally learned that they are only thoughts, and you are something far greater. But even as you grow stronger, negative thoughts try to sneak back in, don't they? They wait for quiet moments, for tired moments, for moments when life overwhelms you. They wait for the nights when you feel alone, for the days when you're stressed, for the mornings when something small goes wrong, and your mind rushes to exaggerate it. They try to convince you that your progress was an illusion, that your strength was temporary, that you're slipping back into old patterns. But listen carefully. Recognizing negative thoughts returning is not failure. It is awareness. It is progress. It means your mind is waking up to what used to be automatic. It means you are no longer taking those thoughts as truth simply because they showed up. You have to understand something. Your brain is wired to remember danger more than safety, pain more than peace, criticism more than compliments. It's not because you're weak. It's because your brain evolved to protect you, not to make you happy. But now you're rewiring it, teaching it that your world is no longer a battlefield. You're teaching it new associations, new interpretations, new ways of responding. And every time you choose clarity over panic, every time you choose calm over chaos, every time you choose truth over fear, you are reshaping your own mind. This is how you deal with negative thoughts. You refuse to be intimidated by them. You remind yourself that a thought is not a threat. It's a momentary electrical impulse. It rises, it passes, it is gone unless you hold on to it. You regain control by choosing not to hold on to what harms you. And yes, that takes practice, it takes patience, it takes consistency. Some days you'll feel like you're making incredible progress, and other days it'll feel like you're starting from nothing. But even on the days that feel backward, you're actually moving forward because you're learning what triggers your thoughts, what strengthens them, and what quiets them. You're becoming fluent in the language of your own mind. So what do you do when a negative thought hits you hard and fast? You pause, you breathe, you anchor yourself. You say, here is a thought. It is loud, but it is not me. It is scary, but it is not reality. It is not reality. It is familiar, but it is not true. And then you let it sit there without feeding it fear, without giving it fuel. You don't argue with it. You don't fight it. You simply allow it to be present and let it pass. Because thoughts that are not given attention eventually lose their power. One of the most powerful ways to deal with negative thoughts is to talk back to them with logic, not emotion. Logic. If your mind says, you'll fail, you respond, what evidence do I have? If your mind says, everyone thinks badly of me, you respond, is that a fact or an assumption? If your mind says, you're not enough, you respond, according to whom? Negative thoughts crumble when confronted with questions they can't answer. Fear collapses when faced with facts. But logic isn't always enough, is it? Because sometimes negative thoughts aren't rational, they're emotional. They come from old pain, old wounds, old memories that were never resolved. They come from childhood moments when you learned to doubt yourself. They come from heartbreak, from disappointment, from betrayal, from harsh words you heard from people who had no right to define you. Sometimes these thoughts repeat not because they're true, but because your inner child is still trying to make sense of experiences you never processed. That's why compassion is also part of dealing with negative thoughts. You don't silence them with cruelty. You don't shame yourself for having them. You treat them like you would a scared child, gently, patiently, with understanding. You say, I hear you. I know you're scared. But you're safe now. You're not alone anymore. You're growing, you're healing, you're learning new ways of thinking. You don't have to believe everything your mind throws at you just because you believed it once. Negative thoughts feel powerful because they often appear during moments of vulnerability. When you're alone, when you're exhausted, when you're stressed, when you're uncertain. But vulnerability does not mean weakness. Vulnerability means your mind is asking for care. It means your soul is asking for grounding. It means your heart is asking for reassurance. Sometimes negative thoughts get louder because you're on the edge of growth. The mind fears change even when the change is good. It fears stepping out of comfort zones. It fears losing old patterns, even painful ones. So when you're evolving, your negative thoughts may try to convince you to stay where you are. They'll say, you can't do this, because doing it would mean becoming someone stronger than your fears are used to. But that's exactly why you keep going. You deal with negative thoughts by building new patterns, by creating a mental environment where positivity isn't forced but natural. You create habits that protect your mind: journaling, reflecting, deep breathing, grounding, gratitude, affirmations, rest, boundaries. You surround yourself with things that pull you upward instead of downward. You stop consuming content that makes your mind anxious. You stop engaging with people who drain you. You stop giving your energy to situations that exhaust you mentally. You take responsibility for your mental environment. And responsibility is not pressure, it is power. When you create a healthier mental space, your negative thoughts have fewer places to hide. They shrink because you're no longer giving them a fertile field to grow in. You're replacing their old patterns with patterns that support you instead of sabotage you. And here's something many people don't realize. Negative thoughts don't disappear when your life becomes perfect. They disappear when you stop believing them. Life will always have stress, always have uncertainty, always have change, always have things you can't control. But when your mind becomes your ally instead of your enemy, you're not afraid of what life brings. You trust yourself to handle it. That's real power. That's real healing. You begin to see your thoughts as weather in the sky of your mind. Clouds passing, storms forming, sunlight returning. None of it permanent. None of it defining the sky itself. You begin to see that you are the sky. Vast, untouched, unbounded. Your thoughts are simply patterns drifting through. You deal with negative thoughts by rising above them, not drowning in them. And over time, something incredible happens. The negative thoughts lose their intensity. They lose their grip. They lose their authority. You begin to notice the gaps between them growing wider and wider. You begin to feel moments of calm that last longer. You begin to feel hope where you once felt fear. You begin to feel clarity where you once felt confusion. And eventually, the negative thoughts become background noise instead of the main voice. But even when they appear, you respond differently. With control, with ease. You don't panic, you don't spiral, you don't crumble. You simply observe, breathe, reset. Because you now understand that your thoughts are not the enemy. They're signals. They're reminders. They're opportunities to practice strength. Sometimes negative thoughts appear because you're not living in alignment with who you want to be. They appear when you're ignoring your needs, your boundaries, your dreams. They appear when you're disconnected from yourself. They appear when something inside you is asking for change. In that case, the negative thoughts are not your enemy. They're messengers. They're saying, please listen. Something needs your attention. And when you listen, when you make the changes your soul has been begging for, those thoughts quiet down naturally. You deal with negative thoughts by choosing yourself, by choosing peace, by choosing clarity, by choosing growth, by choosing truth, by choosing to build a relationship with your own mind that is supportive, not destructive. And perhaps the most important step is this: you learn to let go. Let go of the need to control every thought. Let go of the belief that you must always think positively. Let go of the fear that a negative thought means something is wrong with you. Let go of the guilt for having moments of weakness. You're human. Your mind is complex. Your emotions are nothing about you is broken. Your mind is not against you. It is simply untrained, and you are training it right now. You deal with negative thoughts by releasing the belief that you must fight them all the time. Fighting only makes them stronger. Acceptance makes them lose momentum. Detachment makes them lose relevance. Thoughts are like guests that come to your mental home. You don't have to entertain the unwelcome ones. You don't have to serve them tea. You don't have to sit with them for hours. You acknowledge their presence and you let them leave. And as you strengthen your inner world, something else happens. You begin to recognize the thoughts that deserve attention, the thoughts that guide you, the thoughts that encourage you, the thoughts that bring clarity, the thoughts that bring insight, the thoughts that move you forward. Those thoughts become louder, clearer, more consistent, because you're finally giving them space to exist. And slowly your mind becomes a place you can trust again. You begin to feel safer within yourself. You begin to feel grounded in who you are. You begin to feel proud of how far you've come. You begin to feel capable in situations you once feared. You begin to feel resilient in moments that once overwhelmed you. You begin to feel like you're finally becoming the person you were always meant to be. Negative thoughts will still visit because that's part of being human. But you'll meet them with strength instead of fear. And that changes everything. You will sit in silence and feel calm. You will face uncertainty and feel confident. You will remember your past and feel healed. You will imagine your future and feel hope. And even when the darkness whispers, you will whisper back, I have survived you before and I will survive you again. You are learning the art of mental freedom. You are learning the skill of emotional clarity. You are learning the strength of inner peace. And the more you learn, the more you grow. And the more you grow, the more you realize that negative thoughts were never the truth. They were just shadows waiting for you to turn on the light.